In the top stories, 4 bills to be read in National Assembly sitting. Ambassador Dockery presents credentials to UN Secretary General, and music licensing consultation held. Details on these stories and more after the break.
Black Friday deals start now, only at Courts Optical. Save up to 80% off your purchase. Get the latest in eyewear fashion with frames starting at just $99. Payment plans available from 3 to 24 months. Schedule your appointment online today on www.courtsoptical.com. It's easy and convenient. Black Friday sale starts now with up to 80% off frames as low as $99. Only at Courts Optical. Value you can see.
Mosoka, 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 mosoka.
Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I'm Carla Barrage. 4 bills will be read at the sitting of National Assembly, which takes place on Friday at 10 a.m. at government headquarters. To be read are amendments to the Companies Bill, the Small Business Development Bill, the Domestic Violence Bill, as well as the Evangelistic Faith Church Incorporation Bill 2022. The amendment to the Companies Bill seeks to allow creditors, directors, shareholders, and other interested persons to apply to the High Court to deal with any assets previously held by the struck exempt companies. The bill therefore seeks to bring the Act into compliance with the Constitution so that assets are not vested in the state without alternative options available to the beneficial owners of those assets. The Evangelistic Faith Church St. Kitts Incorporation Bill seeks to give the Evangelistic Faith Church situated at the Ali Sandy Point, St. Kitts, the power to own land and otherwise have legal standing. The aim of the Domestic Violence Amendment Bill is to make urgent changes to protect victims of domestic violence and provide them with swift access to justice. The bill allows victims of domestic violence or persons on their behalf to apply to the Magistrates Court or the High Court for protection orders. This will rectify issues raised with the Ministry of Gender Affairs that the cost of obtaining protection orders only in the High Court was unaffordable for many victims and their families. The bill also expands the definition of economic abuse to cover situations where perpetrators have full access and control over victims' financial resources and gives the Director of Gender Affairs powers under the Act rather than the Director of Social or Family Services as previously legislated. The amendment to the Cabinet Small Business Bill seeks to change the minister with responsibility for administering the Small Business Act and appointing the Small Business Development Advisory Committee to the minister with specific responsibility for small business. The definition of small business will also be amended to include businesses in which not more than 30 persons are employed previously. Her Excellency Neris Dockery, Permanent Representative of St. Kitts and Nevis to the United Nations, recently presented her credentials to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres during a ceremony at the UN headquarters in New York. Ms. Dockery repeated Prime Minister Drew's deep and enduring commitment to the United Nations and to the spirit of multilateralism that it seeks to protect and defend. Her Excellency Dockery said, quote, "I pledge to you today, Secretary General, that during my tenure, St. Kitts and Nevis will add value to the work of the UN, even as you do the same for the people of my great country. I look forward to working with you and to our fruitful engagement over the next few weeks and months," end quote. She expressed delight in being St. Kitts and Nevis's youngest and first female permanent representative to the United Nations. Her Excellency Dockery noted that since her arrival in New York, work has begun to build and expand St. Kitts and Nevis' networks at the United Nations. Permanent Representative Dockery said that it is St. Kitts and Nevis' firm belief that the United Nations provides indispensable global leadership in addressing humanity's common challenges and endeavors. As public consultations on the proper use of musical works continue, the Intellectual Property Office of St. Kitts and Nevis, IPOSKN, is advising persons to seek appropriate licenses. During one of two consultations on Tuesday at the National Emergency Management Agency, Jen Williams, Registrar of IPOSKN, discussed the legal framework for the use of others' music. She gave one reason for the consultations.
I just wanted to make sure we gave you all the legal basis for music licensing. It's important because we're realizing more and more that people are becoming more litigious in the region and internationally when it comes to music and copyright. And it's easier for you to get a license and use that as your defense if there's ever a claim for copyright infringement against you, as opposed to not getting the license and then somebody making a claim for copyright infringement. The damages will be far, far, far more extensive.
She warned that persons with vested interest in how often songs are played are becoming more aware and taking action.
It is becoming quite litigious in the region. Not just because we're in St. Kitts and Nevis, we feel like people don't know us and people don't pay attention to us, but these things are becoming more and more of an issue from international players and also regional and even national players as well, who are realizing that they have these rights under the law and their music is adding value to your establishments and your events, and they're not getting anything back for that.
Ms. Williams spoke of the penalties attached.
So people who play music in public, you need to get the license. Persons and entities who play music in public, these includes event promoters, restaurant, bars, hotels, a list of people. Now, failure to obtain a public performance license can result in a civil suit by the owner or penalties for the offense of playing musical work in public, knowing that it is copyright infringement. And you can check section 46.3 for the specificities.
The consultation continued in Nevis on Wednesday. Stakeholders within the tourism sector are learning more about the history and culture of the Federation during a 3-day workshop this week entitled I Speak St. Kitts Culture and Heritage. The sessions were organized by the Ministry of Tourism and were held at the Kuna Conference Center at Portlands. Leonard Stapleton was one of the facilitators, and he said that the Federation's heritage has had an influence on our architecture, food and music.
They're also going to learn about the evolution of our music, starting from the big drum to the string band, even to the wireless band that we have. They're going to see and learn that the wireless band didn't just happen. Small Ups ain't just come so sweet. New Vibes and those people didn't just come one time so sweet. A lot of the music is steeped in the culture that we have with the drum and the string band and everything.
He said they would also look at how certain aspects of the culture could be translated into increased revenue.
Some of the things that they're going to learn is different. I guess they could brainstorm to see how they could monetize some of these aspects of our culture so that other people could have an appreciation for them.
According to the Ministry of Tourism, the goal of the workshop is to increase the knowledge of the participants, particularly those who interact with visitors, as well as boost their appreciation of the history and culture of the Federation. The workshop wraps up with a field trip on Friday to Cleverly Hill Fort in Sandy Point. After the break, Peter Couey erects monument as tribute to early Lebanese traders, and differently abled persons meet with the minister. Stay with us.
Elevate your experience with Flow's fiber-fast internet and mobile combined. Enjoy double data and unlimited talk on 4 mobile lines, plus up to 35 megabits per second home internet speed at the best rate, giving you the best value to stay connected. I think our Flow mobile is elevated.
You think?
An elevated experience starts with Flow at home, powering double data and unlimited talk on 4 mobile lines at the best rate. Visit a Flow store to sign up today.
What's your reason?
Because on weekends we have special from Thursday up to Monday. So I will encourage more people to come.
What's your reason?
They like come up for the cheap shrimps. You know, cheap things good now when I get.
There's always a great reason to shop at Hortsport's Value Mart IGA.
You could find the products that you really need.
Hortsport's Value Mart IGA, where
Price matters more.
Shop smart at Value Mart.
Green means go with one rate.
Green means go with one rate. From Republic Bank, go green with hybrid or electric vehicles, and it's one low rate. And we mean low. Go green with solar-powered air conditioners, grids, water heaters, and it's still the same low rate. Any green product, one low rate. Offer ends December 31st.
Green means go with one rate today.
Call or check your nearest branch for details.
Welcome back. Businessman Peter Khoury, MBE, has constructed a monument as a tribute to acknowledge and honor the arrival and significant contributions of the first Lebanese traders to St. Kitts and Nevis. More in this report. The monument, which is located on Mr. Khoury's property at the entrance of the Frigate Bay Main Road and the corner of Seabreeze Crescent, bears the names of the Lebanese families who arrived in St. Kitts and grew their families and built businesses. Mr. Khoury said he decided to have the monument built to record the difficulties endured by these families who traveled to a foreign land and succeeded as accomplished businessmen.
I did it as a mark. You know, we have so many things. You have monuments with World War II. I'm not comparing them. But I did it because, first of all, it would mark the origin. You know, you have Lebanese here, how they got here and when they got here, and the conditions of the hardships that they had in starting business. Little English known, you know. My dad was about 18 years old and the only one of 6 children to leave the family and come to St. Kitts penniless. And most of them had no money, little or no money.
Mr. Khoury estimates that the first Lebanese family arrived in St. Kitts in the early 1800s. He gave a brief history of the arrival of the first Lebanese and where they established businesses.
The Lebanese that came here were penniless. And I think people like George Saheli and Mr. Abraham Charles, they were the first people that we can recall that came here. And of course there were big stores, all British companies. And it's not an exaggeration. The Lebanese took over the clothing and the cloth material business. Like in the 50s, they were very, very present in town. Some of the families have gone away or died out. But you had many Lebanese, and we were somewhat centered around Liverpool Row, College Street and Church Street.
Mr. Khoury, who was born in St. Kitts along with his 9 siblings, noted that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis were kind to the Lebanese migrants.
I thought of doing this in memory of them, that they came, and I have emphasized to many people and in my correspondence that the local people were very, very good to them. And they also went to Nevis selling with a bundle on their back, you know. Yes. We have had very good relations throughout, you could say, as far as your memory, over 100 years. There's no conflicts or anything with the government, you know, they have done well. And of course, a lot of the children, coaches and so on, they got on to be doctors, lawyers, and, you know, they moved all over the world, to put it that way.
The monument prominently features the names of the Lebanese families who have made St. Kitts their home. Saheli, Charles, Khoury with a KH, Khoury with a C, Astafan, John, Kawaja, Abarisk, Nostas, Kasab, Nasir, and Bukaram. Reporting for ZIZ News, I'm Carla Barrage. The government is pushing forward with its agenda to improve the conditions for differently abled persons in the Federation, according to the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, SKNIS. On Tuesday, Junior Minister with Responsibility for Aging and Disabilities, Honorable Iselin Phillip, met with members of the St. Kitts and Nevis Association of Persons with Disabilities and others for a discussion. The session was held at the McKnight Community Center and featured presentations from the President and Vice President of the SKNAPD, as well as the President of the St. Kitts Society for the Blind. Members of both bodies attended, as well as parents and guardians of persons with disabilities. SKNAPD President Joseph Bergen said that such engagements are greatly valued as they allow for an honest discussion and an exchange of ideas. He said the ultimate aim is to have differently abled persons be self-sufficient and lead independent lives. During her presentation, Junior Minister Phillip explained that the government is specifically focused on uplifting vulnerable segments in society, including at-risk youth, senior citizens, and the differently abled. She is quoted as saying, "We recognize the need to pay more attention to and to put more investment into supporting our persons with disabilities and the differently abled. As a new minister, we are trying to build out what this new department, this unit, is going to offer and what we are going to do. And to be able to figure out what it is we are going to do, we have to have conversations with all of you, since you are the people who we are going to serve." Subject areas covered during the discussion were finding a permanent home for the association, updating legislation to include mandates in the United Nations Convention on Persons with Disabilities, protecting designated parking spaces for the differently abled, and adjusting other traffic regulations, housing, reducing the stigma towards disabilities, increasing employment opportunities, and more. The traffic department is urging motorists to buckle up when driving to ensure the safety of themselves and their passengers. Sergeant Delroy Harris, during ZIZ Radio's program On the Road on Wednesday, outlined what the law says about wearing a seatbelt.
There is a seatbelt law that we're supposed to govern by, that each person driving in front must be restrained by a seatbelt. So therefore, we urging everyone driving within transportation must restrain themselves, buckle up.
He also spoke about the seatbelt law as it pertains to children.
For the rear, for person under the age of 14 years should be restrained as well by a seatbelt. Where a child is under the age of 5, carry 40 pounds, should be in child seat. One of them invented restraint that people usually invent just because, as we know, some child is larger than some. So some can fit in a child seat. So people create all kind of things just to restrain that child.
Sergeant Harris added that in an accident, an unbuckled passenger or driver's body could become a projectile.
We try to save lives. As I say, when you get in an accident, the person become a projectile. So therefore, for example, if you speed in and so forth and the vehicle turn over, no seat belt, you could get thrown out of the vehicle could drop on you, it could show you into traffic and next vehicle run over you, cause you're dead. So therefore, we urging people to buckle up.
He explains that failure to comply with the law will attract a fine of $150. Grade 2 teachers from public and private schools participated in a half-day cursive writing workshop on Tuesday. The workshop was organized and hosted by Teacher Resource Center Coordinator in the Curriculum Development Unit, Ruth Bedford, and focused on improving teachers' capacity to teach the skill. Ms. Bedford was quoted as saying, based on the feedback received from schools on the need to address students' handwriting, we saw it fitting to engage these teachers in this activity so as to address the importance of teaching handwriting and how to teach handwriting. Throughout the workshop, teachers were exposed to the various skills and teaching methods of handwriting, specifically cursive writing. One such method, Vapika, was used. Ms. Bedford agreed that teachers should implement Vapika in the steps to teach handwriting. According to the Ministry of Education, when teachers use Vapika, they are activating the multidimensional learning capacities of their students. It is hoped that teachers will practice the skills and knowledge gained from this workshop to help address the issue of poor handwriting among students. Coming up in regional news, Guyanese ex-cop found guilty of raping a 14-year-old girl.